Today we're going to be talking in a philosophical way about documentary and how it relates to events and causes going on in the world, and what my philosophy is about how the tone should be. And you can completely disagree with it. Michael Moore completely disagrees with it, and I just found that out because I read an article by him that laid out, I think, 13 ways to be a better documentary filmmaker, and some of them I disagree with. So I felt like this would be a good video because I have a different philosophy, but I have a completely different philosophy about news and documentary and everything, and we're going to talk about that today. Yes. So, okay. We're going to talk really about energy. And we're going to talk, this is going to sound a little bit law of attraction, but I don't want to repel people by saying law of attraction, because I'm going to try and ground this in relatable terms, in real world examples. So my issue with the way that news is presented, and even these people that claim to be social warriors who get people all wound up and mad and upset about how things are going in the world, what it does is it creates more of that in the world. So let's say and we'll bring it down into maybe like a micro example. Let's say you are so frustrated with your spouse, okay? And you're really, really angry, and you're in that space because maybe they did something inconsiderate, like legitimately inconsiderate, but you're festering that and getting angry about it. And maybe they do something else, and in that case, it's not legitimately unkind or unjust, but because you're in that space of frustration and anger, you react to it as if it is, or you interpret it as if it is. And across the board, right, left, progressive, whatever, there are these mouthpieces that are doing that and are making everything worse and making people mad and making people sad. And here is an alternative to that, because in Michael Moore's article, he is all about creating that fury, and I think that's bad. I really do. I think it's not constructive. So I'm not saying to not dive into these issues. The thing that I am making a documentary about now is upsetting. It is upsetting to me, and I'm doing my best not to be in that space because I want to look at solutions. And when you look at a situation with the end in mind, in your imagination of being a good situation, and then you start to imagine the ways that you can get there, then you can create a constructive presentation about the situation that leads to greater well-being in that situation. So I will use the example of Who Killed the Electric Car, which to me was a very upsetting movie because I am an environmentalist, and I could see these people not only loved their cars, but they were fast and they were fun and they were ecologically sound, and GM just yanked them away and smushed them, and people were crying, and I was crying by the end of it, and it's just a car, because it's more about a situation. But what they also did at the end was talk about what you can do next. Call people, call your representatives, start researching this, go to your EV club, that kind of thing. And in doing that, it offered some empowerment at the end for me, and a hopefulness at the end for me. And I feel that is an energy, and I feel that creates more people thinking solutions rather than thinking about how horrible the world is and staying in that space and creating more of it. So I feel that when a movie, and I love Michael Moore's stuff. I went to see him on Broadway, and I'm going to add that in the playbill for his Broadway show, he had a list of go call your people, go call your representatives, try this app, 5 calls, do it a day. There's an app called 5 Calls. It's awesome. Do it. And so he added a whole list of things you can do and be active on, and that I think is great. But a lot of the time, I have watched movies about animals being slaughtered and dolphins being cruelly killed and all this stuff, and there's no constructive what to do about it at the end, and that is disempowering, and I always feel like I leave the theater just feeling like crap. I mean, I'm just like, oh, the world is horrible. All right, well, oh well. And I feel like a lot of people also feel that disempowerment. So what you can do as a filmmaker, as a documentary filmmaker, is go in there and show people the situation. And I'm not saying not to evoke them emotionally and make them emotionally connected to the situation, because it could be dire. But the thing is, part of your job is to find out the solution to it. News, in all its aspects, progressive, right, left, whoever you want to look at, they are just spewing out what's terrible about the world, but they are not looking at solutions. They are not talking about that. And I am thinking about one particular news organization in particular that is progressive and the most viewed or whatever on YouTube, and all they do is infuriate people. And maybe these situations are worthy of being infuriated for a minute, but no action should be taken in fury, because it will lead to more of that emotion. So what I'm saying is they need to not necessarily tap into that, but then show people how they can be constructive people in the world. Because ultimately, I think that we're all on this planet together, and most of us want it to be good for ourselves and our friends and our families, and for the animals and for all sentient beings. And really, if people are pointing to a situation and saying bad and not showing how it can be good and how that is part of us, and not just calling your senators, like that's part of it, but really getting into, getting your hands dirty in other ways as well. Maybe just collectively in your life. Maybe just loving someone who has different political opinions. Maybe just turning off the media pieces that do create fury in you when you start to feel that coming up. Because the people around you will feel it on an intuitive level too. And it'll evoke in them as well. Trust me about this one too. Everyone's connected. So all I'm saying is your job as a documentarian, if you are doing documentary film, in my opinion, is to also offer solutions and offer hope. Because sometimes that's all we really have.